we reconnect with rockers and old friends on WDHA's Reconnect with Rockers. Myles Kennedy is here, a gentleman who I'm always so happy to see and always so happy to hear from. It is great to see your face and hear your voice.
It's great to see you. Thanks for having me on, Terry.
I am so excited. We're getting the Ides of March in May, but we're getting the Ides of March in May. And here's what I love. I was reading about the record and it said, like, I think in the headline, it said, Alter Bridge and Slash vocalist will release his follow-up to Year of the Tiger. And I love that because I was like, now we're sort of getting on the solo train. He's releasing, it's not just like Myles Kennedy releasing a new record. It's the follow-up to Year of the Tiger, which, yeah, that like spoke to me because I was like, now you've got that solo career that we always wanted you to have. We always knew you could have, but you just never had time. You didn't have time to have that career,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It was tricky just to fit in the first one. Somehow we managed to get the second one in as well.
So we have 11 tracks on this. I'm gathering, because I've only heard a few, heavier, definitely more bluesy in nature, and really guitars for you, really up front. Uh, Super slick guitar, like guitars that I don't understand, beyond my comprehension, beyond the slide. So was this something that you wanted to do on this record? Did you really want to focus on, because you're an amazing guitar player. You know, we've talked about it before and you've played, you know, different amounts of guitar on different Alter Bridge records, you know, depending on which record you listen to, how much Myles is up front with guitar. And you've always been respectful of the guitar players in your band. You play with Slash, you know, and Mark. So was this record a little bit more like, yeah, you know what, I think I'm going to get a little more experimental and I'm really going to put the guitars up front?
Yeah, I think it was something as I was writing the record, and I really rekindled my love for not just the guitar, rhythm guitar, but just lead guitar. I missed doing that. And when I started off as a young player many moons ago, that was really my focus. And I think it was I had a few friends that would say some things along the way. They were like, for all the time you put into developing the lead side of things, you don't use it very often. I think even Mark Tremonti might have mentioned something about that once, and it was just like you should really consider bringing that to the forefront a little more on some things. So I figured, well, what a perfect opportunity with solo record number two to do some hoodly hoos, and it's just been a lot of fun. I really look. One of the first things I do every day is grab a guitar and just noodle. Guitar players were notorious noodlers, but there's something that I've figured out. It's kind of therapeutic. There's a reason why. Have you ever tried to talk to a guitar player? Try it sometime. When they're noodling, when they're like playing a lead, try and hold a conversation, and you'll realize that only about half of what you're saying is actually being heard because
Oh, yeah. Oh,
it's a
yeah.
weird thing, but it's very kind of zen, and so yeah, I love it.
So let's talk a little bit about In Stride and talk about putting together this record. Was the whole thing, some of it written going before lockdown and then sort of fine-tuned in lockdown? In Stride, I know, was something that you put together in lockdown because it's certainly about, not freaking out and sort of taking a, which is so hard to do. It's easier said than done, but just sort of taking that step back, that breath back, and kind of realizing what we're all freaking out about. So talk to me about putting, the writing, and then I think did you guys all get in a car and head to Florida or something and put the record together?
Yeah, it was interesting because most of the songs were written between about March of last year and probably July. I had two songs that were outliers that I'd had for over a decade that I felt would fit perfect on this record, and that was a
Wow.
song called "Wanderlust Begins" and then a song called "Love Rain Down." But other than that, most everything was written during the beginning of the lockdown. And what's interesting about the arc of the narrative, lyrically, is so much of it was written when we didn't know what was happening. It was pretty early on, so you can kind of sense that in some of the lyrical content that there's just a lot of questioning and what's happening. This is all new territory for so many of us. We haven't lived through something like this, so it was interesting to dive into that. Now, as far as the drive to get to the studio, it was a few things. We had time set up with Elvis, Michael Basquiat, who I love dearly, and
I
he's
call them the Myles Militia because it's like you, Zia, Tim, who by the way gave me the Alter Bridge hoodie.
nice,
This is a
nice.
Tim thing. And Elvis. So this is like sort of the Kennedy coalition, the Myles Militia. You guys, travel in that pack. But that's what makes the great music. It's all cultivating together. So you guys get in the car. What happens?
Well, we act like fools for 2 days straight. I mean, it was no, it was cool. Like, so we just we rented like a Suburban or something and filled the back with the gear. We figured, well, why ship the gear? Let's just put it in the rig and let's go. So Zia, drummer extraordinaire Zia Udine, he lives in Seattle, so he met me here in Spokane. We loaded up on Saturday morning, drove a couple days and we met Tim, I think, in maybe it was somewhere in Tennessee, and then we drove the rest of the way to Orlando. And I think we did the whole trip, all nearly 3,000 miles in just under 3 days, if I'm not mistaken.
Whoa.
So it was pretty, it was pretty insane.
Everybody take turns driving. Who did the
Yeah,
most driving?
well, once Tim was in the fold, Tim won't let anybody drive but
Tim's
him.
bossy. Yeah, I can picture
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Tim's the
yeah,
boss.
right.
It's Tim's going down the highway, man. It's Tim time.
He's got that alpha thing going, so which is fine with me. But what was fascinating was the entire trip. The radio did not come on once. There was no podcast. It was just three idiots laughing and being goofballs, and then that continued on once we got to the studio because we all lived together. We were all kind of just isolated, and it was when you get the three of us together, and then when you get Elvis and his gang in the mix once we get to the studio, yeah, it's a great hang. I mean, I think that's why I love that group.
You were
It's just
probably hangless for a while because
oh
you've
yeah,
been in quarantine. So it was, you and your wife, Selena and your pup. And, so you get together with everybody and it's sort of like, nah, and that's kind of what happened when we were in lockdown. And then we went back to the studio and everyone's like, it's a whole new thing. It's a rediscovery of everybody.
yeah, I know humans. I
Yeah.
mean, like interaction. What's this? This is great. Yeah, we
Um,
took that for granted, right? Like it really
We
makes you
did, we did,
appreciate.
and we still do. And you think about those silly things that you like to do together. I saw something came up in my Facebook memories where I was like behind a coworker, like scaring him, and I was like, God, I don't even remember when was the last time I did anything like that. I was that close to somebody's face. It's just we sort of take those things for granted. I wanted to talk to you about vocals too, in a time of quarantine because you're always somebody I would always say seeing you, whoever I would see you perform with, God, how does he do it? He just got off this tour, then he did some studio time, say with Slash, and then he's back going out for Year the Tiger, and then Alter Bridge is kicking up. That voice is so delicate, yet it's an instrument, it's a muscle. What is it like when you're not performing to that extent? Did you feel like your voice was stronger going into this record because you'd had a little break, or did you feel like, wow, I got to really start retraining again because I haven't been doing what I normally do? And you're somebody who, there are vocalists and then there are vocalists, and you're the vocalist because not only do you have a tremendous vocal ability and it's so unique, but you're always working it.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I think that so it's interesting that the gentleman that I learned my bag of tricks from as far as technique goes, Ron Anderson, he says something that really stuck with me, and it was the idea that if you don't use it, you lose it. And I thought, really? And he's like, yeah, it's a muscle. You keep it going. And so for me, I'm usually writing or I'm doing something that will force me to use or touring or whatever it is. So there was a bit of a break, especially once I was done doing all the demos and writing the songs for the Ides of March. Um, what I found is generally if I sing like a day or two before I need it for something, that's usually good enough just to kind of dust off the cobwebs and get this kind of the strength back. I actually read an interview a long time ago that really stuck with me it was with Steve Vai and I think David Coverdale back when he played in Whitesnake. And he made a comment about how David's voice would be stronger by like the second show.
Hmm.
And well, which is interesting because David also studied with the same vocal guy that I studied with. And so whatever it is about that technique, it just kind of lends itself to like day two, day three is when it's, oh, okay, now it's everything's kind of firing on all cylinders. But yeah, man, it's fascinating. The human voice is a fascinating machine because you'll start that first day. I'll start and it'll be a little like won't be as elastic. And I'll be like, oh no, is it? Have I finally hit that point where it's not going to do what I tell it to do anymore? And then day two, it's like, okay, just relax, have fun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I saw the live performance that you did from the Fox Theater.
Yeah,
Oh God, that was so great. And that's what made me think of it. I said, holy cannoli. I mean, his voice is just so amazing. And then I thought, well, I don't know, maybe the break did him well, but I'm sure he had to do some retraining. You know what else is funny? I was reading comments, you know, sometimes I read comments and sometimes I don't read comments, but some of the comments that people made about you when In Stride came out, they just struck me. And I always say, like, when you put something new out, people always feel that they need to go to the negative because they always feel that it's just like a human nature thing. You know, it's when we do something different too, you know, at the station, people are always like, no, we got to, rah, 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 you know. So, but I had to look at some of these comments and I jotted a couple of them down that I thought were really, you know, impactful. Somebody thanked you for providing the soundtrack to their life, which I thought, well, that's really cool. You know, that's got to make you feel great.
yeah.
Somebody said he's absolutely, undoubtedly the best of his era. I like this one. This is a compliment. He said, sounds 20 years younger than he actually is. The best voice this planet has ever been blessed with. Holy moly, right? Finally light at the end of this tunnel with a new Myles song. And then somebody else said, only Myles motivates me to be a singer. His voice is from another world. So I wanted to talk to you about your fan base, whether it's solo stuff, whether it's with the Conspirators and Slashy, whether it's Alter Bridge. It's funny because I always say that we're a good match to have your music on my station because our listeners are very loyal. Your fans are very loyal. They stick with you. They feel this something from within them that connects with you. So when you're reading things like this or seeing things like this, because they have to sort of cross your screen time at some point, how does that make you feel? What is that like for you to have people saying that you have provided a soundtrack to their life and there's nothing like a light at the end of the tunnel because of your music?
Well, I mean, well, it's odd. The gravity of comments like that is it's kind of hard to fathom. And the soundtrack, you know, providing a soundtrack for someone's life, I conveyed the same thing to people along the way, and that's a heavy statement. So that really means a lot to me. You know, as far as people, I think what it does is it makes you very aware of your role in someone's life, and oftentimes you forget. You really forget about it. You know, I'll do my thing, and I'll think, well, maybe a few people are listening. I generally don't go too deep into the comments and all that because I'll be the first to admit I'm a pretty, you know, your typical sensitive artsy guy, and so what's interesting about how my noggin works is sometimes the good comments will kind of throw me off as well, other than, you know, obviously negative comments. But then because you feel like, what if you don't live up to those expectations, right? You know, that's some of those things that people were saying. Those are heavy, and I'm flattered by that. I don't necessarily agree with it because I have
And I'm going
guys.
to be honest with you, I didn't look for the heaviest ones. I literally went down, there were like 10 comments, and I just jotted down a couple. Like I could have probably gone down 10 more and they would have been just as heavy. So this was like a very, you know, universal kind of feeling from people. So it wasn't like I just picked out the 10 best, you know?
Well, it's really it's amazing that you're right. The fans are incredibly loyal. I mean, I've worked with a few people here and there through different mediums, and they'll do like giveaways, or they'll do like some sort of show thing, and they'll always say the same thing. They say, your fans are, I've never seen anything like it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
it's amazing. And so, but that goes back to what I was saying earlier. I don't want to let them down. I just and I think that's part of why I continue to try and evolve and work hard. Is it's like I see how they react, and I see how much the music means to them, and it gives you a purpose, man. That's the beauty of this. It's just like I wake up in the morning, I'm like, well, hopefully I'll do something that'll make somebody happy. What else can you ask for?
And that's what I wanted to bring that up too, because you are a guy of the fans, and you haven't seen the fans in a long time, and I sort of wanted to, kind of give you a little bit of a perspective from somebody else who's looking at your fan base. And, look, I've seen you at the station. Last time you were there, they were like, we have like woods behind the station. People are like merging from the woods. Like, I'm like, where are these woods people coming from? To see you in the parking lot. The people always come with a cookie for you. They'll never miss. The kids are growing up. Watching you. Yeah, I mean, I know that fan base. And that fan base is so incredibly strong. Before I let you go, too, got to mention something that you mentioned to me years ago when you were at the station. Not last time you were there with Mark. This harkens back to even before, maybe you're the Tiger or the Alter Bridge tour before that. We talked about Wolfgang Van Halen. Off the record. It was an off the record conversation. And you said to me, I'm so excited for people to see how talented he is and what he can do. And now I think people have seen it. And he had such great, I had him on this feature, early on when, Distance came out, and I mentioned you, and I said, I'd heard about you years ago from Myles, and then when Myles and Mark came. And so seeing your friend have such success and be so like on his own now, and people really seeing what he can do, what has that been like for you?
It's very exciting, and it's nice when you've been kind of having the discussions with people, and then they see it and they're like, yeah, I mean, it's true. He's just this force of nature. He can do it all, and yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled for him, and I'm really happy to see how it's it kind of it's given me faith in humans again. How people kind of, after his father passed away and everybody just poured in with so much love for the guy, and then he releases this beautiful song, and it's found its place in the world, and now it's the beautiful cycle of just good positive energy, and so yeah, I'm super proud of Wolfie, and he's gonna have a good run.
Yeah, I think he is. It's funny. I'll tell you a little inside information. I've worked with radio consultants for my whole career, and I got a text from a radio consultant that was like, is this as great as I think it is? And I was like, yeah, it's as great as you think it is. And he's like, I knew it was. I haven't had anything, affect me, in a while like this. Is this as great as I think it is? So yeah, I knew you guys were always talking about how, God, he's so talented and people just don't know what he can do yet. So, yeah, it's been a really, really great run for him. And I'm really looking forward to his record coming out in early summer. And of course, looking so forward to your record coming out on May 14th. #1 most requested tune on WDHA. We've only been playing it for like the week and a half that we've had it so far. This week was in stride. So yay.
No kidding. Well,
Yeah,
my mom said she's been calling a lot.
I've been talking to your mom. Yeah, mom, sister, brother. And, I remember You're the Tiger was the same thing. And I remember you said to me, you literally said to me, is that true? Like you were surprised when you go back to that sort of like, I can't kind of believe it. And I feel like I could be letting people down if I'm not good enough. You did say that to me with a surprised look on your face. I was like, yeah, it's like the #1 most requested tune for a month. And you're like, really? There was definitely that surprise. So, yeah, everybody loves it. The guitar is just monster. You just sliding, so good, so good. And I'm so excited because I think in a time where we need great new music the most, when we haven't been getting out and we haven't been seeing shows, to have a new Myles Kennedy record is bam. Perfect, on the money, checks all the boxes. And it's always wonderful to see your face. I miss you.
I miss you too. I really do. Thank you so much.
Say hi to everybody in the Kennedy house for me.
I will.
And hopefully we will reconvene sooner rather than later. And best of luck with the new record, man. I can't wait. May 14th can't get here fast enough for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's always a
it's in my Alter Bridge hoodie. Oh. You are the best. I love you.
DHA's Reconnect with Rockers is powered by Karis Lock Company, your full-service locksmith.